Right now, Fortune 500 companies are just pouring billions of dollars into two main things.
Hmm.
You've got state-of-the-art enterprise AI systems on one end and these massive multi-million-dollar ERP platforms on the other.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, you read the press releases and it sounds like we are living in the future of, frictionless commerce. Everything is seamless.
Right, the perfect digital enterprise.
Exactly. But then, and this is the crazy part, if you walk into the accounting departments of those exact same companies,
Hmm.
you will find highly paid professionals literally manually copy-pasting tax compliance numbers.
Oh, yeah. From one Excel spreadsheet to another.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's wild. We have like spaceships at the endpoints and
Mhm.
just duct tape in the middle.
It really is staggering. I mean, the contrast between the capital invested in those high-end systems and the sheer manual labor required to actually make them talk to each other, it's a massive disconnect.
Yeah.
It really reveals a fundamental flaw in how modern technology stacks are being built today.
So, welcome to this deep dive. Whether you are, listening to this on your commute, maybe prepping for a major tech strategy meeting tomorrow, or you're just fiercely curious about how the digital gears of modern business actually turn, you're at the exact right place.
Absolutely.
Because today we are zeroing in on this hidden problem that is quietly draining resources and, honestly, hamstringing innovation across the corporate world. We've got a whole stack of research in front of us featuring two really detailed architectural breakdowns on a concept called data orchestration.
Yeah, which is fascinating stuff.
It really is. And our mission today is to uncover why the tech industry is stuck in what these sources call the two-endpoint trap.
Right.
And we'll look at how a single, often entirely absent layer is the secret to making enterprise AI and compliance actually function.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have the billions spent on the source systems, the SAPs and Oracles of the world,
Mm-hmm.
and we have billions spent on the consuming systems like AI and analytics. So why does the middle look like duct tape?
Well, it really comes down to competing structural incentives.
Okay.
If you look at the enterprise architecture of a typical large organization, you see those heavily funded endpoints operating in total isolation.
They're siloed.
Exactly. On the far left, you have your powerful source systems, the modern ERPs and CRMs, and they are brilliant at generating and processing transaction data at scale.
Yeah.
But they structure that data entirely for operational purposes.
What do you mean by operational purposes?
So an ERP formats a data packet to efficiently process a billing transaction, right?
Right.
It does not format that data to, say, train a neural network or to submit a regulatory tax filing to the government of Spain.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And then on the far right, your AI applications and business intelligence tools are built to extract insight. But to do that, they require data to arrive in highly specific, specialized formats.
So you basically have an engine generating raw material in one shape and a factory that can only accept raw material in a totally different shape.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And to bridge that gap, organizations just start building these point-to-point bespoke integrations.
Which is where the duct tape comes in.
Exactly. They tell their IT team, hey, write a custom script to pull data from the ERP, reshape it, and push it to the tax software.
Right.
And then the next day, they write another custom script to move data from the ERP to the analytics tool.
And imagine as the company buys more tools or, enters new markets, the IT department just has to keep writing more custom scripts.
That is exactly what happens. And this creates what enterprise architects call integration spaghetti.
Integration spaghetti. I love that.
It's descriptive, right? But it's brittle, it's expensive to maintain, and it just scales terribly.
Right.
You end up with a landscape where moving a single piece of information from point A to point B requires navigating this insane maze of hard-coded legacy connections.
Okay, wait. I am going to push back on this for a second.
Sure.
Because I'm putting myself in the shoes of a CTO or maybe a data engineer listening right now. And I'm looking at my cloud budget thinking, wait, didn't data lakes solve this exact issue?
Ah, yes, the data lake argument.
Right, because for the last decade, the massive pitch of the data lake was that we stopped doing all these point-to-point connections and we just dumped everything into one massive centralized cloud repository.
Yeah, it's a very common defense, but it completely misdiagnoses the root of the friction.
Really? Because I always picture a data lake like a massive climate-controlled storage unit.
Okay, I like that.
You just back up the moving truck and shove all your unorganized boxes inside. Everything your company owns is technically in one place, so you solved your space problem.
Right.
But if an auditor suddenly demands your tax returns from 2019, you're still standing in a giant warehouse, digging through unmarked boxes in the dark.
The storage unit analogy hits the nail on the head. You solved a storage problem, sure, but you did nothing to solve the organization and standardization problem. A data lake simply relocates the integration spaghetti downstream.
Oh, wow. So you just move the mess.
Exactly.
Right.
The data flowing into that lake is still in whatever chaotic, source-specific format the ERP generated it in.
Right.
You might have one system calling a field invoice_date and another calling it date of invoice.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
And you might have different currencies or conflicting business logic embedded in the outputs. The consuming systems still have to deal with that structural inconsistency.
So basically, the data engineers are still writing the exact same custom transformation scripts. They're just writing them as the data leaves the lake instead of as it leaves the ERP.
Yes. And the source material is very explicit about this limitation. It notes, and I'll quote this directly, "A data lake is a brilliant solution to a storage problem. It is not a solution to a data quality problem, a standardization problem, or a real-time compliance problem."
That makes total sense.
Right. Moving bad data to a cheaper storage tier does not magically make it intelligent.
Which brings us to the actual architectural cure. Because if massive storage units aren't the answer, the sources point to this missing layer, right? This architectural discipline called data orchestration.
Exactly.
And from what the texts describe, this isn't about holding or storing data at all. It's about managing data in motion.
That is the pivot point for this entire strategy managing data in motion. We are not talking about another database.
Right.
We aren't even talking about traditional ETL, extract, transform, load.
Which is kind of the old way of doing things, right?
Totally. Historically, ETL was a batch process. The ERP would run all day, and then at midnight, a script would extract the data, transform it, and load it into a warehouse ready for the morning.
Right.
Data orchestration is fundamentally different. It is a dedicated, real-time architectural layer sitting right between your source systems and your consuming systems.
Let's dive into the mechanics of how this actually intercepts data, because the text breaks this down into 4 distinct capabilities.
Right, there are 4 pillars.
And the first one is standardization via a canonical data model. In practice, how is this layer physically catching the information?
So modern orchestration uses event-driven architecture.
Okay.
When a sales rep closes a deal in the CRM or a transaction clears in the ERP, that system emits an instantaneous digital signal and event.
Got it.
The orchestration layer catches that event in real time, the exact millisecond it happens.
Oh, wow. So there's no waiting for a midnight batch run.
None. And instead of moving that raw event directly to a destination, the layer transforms it into a single organization-wide standard, which is the canonical data model.
Okay.
This model defines the universal corporate definition of what a customer is or what a completed sale looks like. It completely strips away the quirks of the original source system.
You know, this concept reminds me of a universal translator at the United Nations.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. Imagine you have 50 delegates in a room, and they're all speaking different native languages.
Right.
If they all want to talk to each other directly, every single delegate has to learn 49 other languages.
Which is impossible.
Right. And if you have 50 software systems doing point-to-point connections, that's nearly 2,500 individual connections to maintain. The complexity scales quadratically into pure chaos.
Yes, exactly.
But if you introduce a universal translator, a single shared standard, every delegate only has to translate their native language into the shared standard once. And everyone listens to that one shared standard.
And the math behind that analogy is exactly why enterprise architects champion this model. When you map every source directly to every consumer, the complexity scales as the square of the number of systems.
Which is a nightmare for IT.
It's a total nightmare. Adding your 15th software platform feels infinitely harder than adding your 5th because you are wiring it to 14 other tools.
Right.
But a canonical hub-and-spoke model scales linearly. Every new system just maps to the central canonical standard one time.
That is so much cleaner.
It really is.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Capability 2 is continuous validation. Because in legacy environments, we usually treat data quality like an autopsy.
An autopsy. Yes, sadly.
Like the tax-compliant software rejects a filing at the end of the month because a jurisdictional code is missing, or a dashboard crashes because a text string was entered into a number field.
Exactly.
We detect the problem downstream long after the damage is done.
But orchestration flips that paradigm entirely.
Yeah.
As the data is intercepted and transformed into the canonical standard, it immediately passes through strict validation rules.
Oh, automatically.
Automatically. The layer checks for missing fields, inconsistent values, business rule violations, and this happens continuously right at the boundary, as close to the source system as architecturally possible.
So it's like fixing the water quality at the treatment plant, rather than giving everyone a filter for their kitchen sink,
That's a perfect way to put it.
which feeds seamlessly into the third capability, which is intelligent routing.
Yeah.
Because once you have this clean, standardized, perfectly validated canonical data, the orchestration layer routes it simultaneously to every system that needs it, but it tailors the delivery.
And the customization of the delivery is crucial here.
Right.
The tax platform gets the highly rigid, specific document structure the government demands.
Mhm.
The analytics tool gets a massive flat table where it can look for historical trends. And the AI system gets the raw, interconnected data points it needs to train its models.
Oh, wow. So they all get what they need at the exact same time.
Exactly. All of these different outputs are generated simultaneously from a single version of the truth.
That is incredibly powerful. And then the fourth capability wraps all of this together: continuous monitoring and quality management.
Yes.
The orchestration layer acts almost like an air traffic control tower.
Sure.
It maintains real-time visibility into the latency, the completeness, and the flow of the data.
Right, so if a feed breaks or an API endpoint changes, it surfaces an anomaly instantly.
Okay, so the real-world application of these four mechanics, intercepting, validating, routing, and monitoring, it radically shifts the operational reality of a business.
It really does.
Let's look at the impact on the ERP. Because a widespread misconception in the industry is that data orchestration is somehow a competitor to the ERP.
Oh, absolutely. People hear orchestration and they immediately think it's trying to replace SAP or Microsoft Dynamics.
Right.
But it's not. The ERP is the ultimate system of record. It is the engine of business process execution.
Yeah.
The problem isn't the ERP, the problem is how companies abuse it.
Abuse it. How?
Well, because they don't have an orchestration layer, they force the ERP to act as the universal translator.
Oh, I see.
They go in and write highly customized, hard-coded rules directly into the ERP's core software, just to handle complex tax compliance logic for 40 different countries, or to format data specifically for a downstream marketing tool.
They treat the engine of the car like it should also be the GPS and the stereo system.
Exactly. And this creates immense code bloat. It is literally the primary reason why ERP upgrades take years and cost tens of millions of dollars.
Because they're scared to touch it.
Yes, the system becomes so bogged down with bespoke compliance logic and custom integrations that touching one piece of code threatens to break the entire global supply chain.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
So data orchestration relieves that burden.
Completely.
The ERP is allowed to just be an ERP. It simply hands off the raw native transaction data to the orchestration layer. And then the orchestration layer does all the heavy lifting. It applies the Spanish tax rules or strips out personally identifiable information before sending it to the cloud data warehouse.
Exactly. The core system of record gets to stay clean, standard, and easy to upgrade. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it redefines enterprise strategy.
Right.
The source material summarizes this dynamic beautifully, they say. The ERP should be the source of truth. The data orchestration layer should be the intelligence of movement. Organizations that conflate these roles end up with systems that do neither well.
The intelligence of movement. I love that phrasing.
It really captures the essence of it.
And that intelligence of movement is the prerequisite for enterprise AI surviving the next 5 years.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because every company on Earth is trying to deploy AI agents right now.
Yeah.
But when these projects fail, and they fail a lot, they almost never fail because of bad algorithms.
No, the algorithms are fine.
Right. The neural networks work perfectly. The projects fail because they are starved of quality data.
Absolutely. AI is entirely reliant on standardized, consistently labeled data.
Yeah.
If you feed a sophisticated machine learning model structurally inconsistent data from a tangled web of customized ERPs, it will confidently generate highly sophisticated garbage.
Sophisticated garbage.
Data scientists are currently functioning as highly paid janitors. They spend like 80% of their time cleaning, deduping, and formatting data rather than actually training models or generating business value.
Which is such a waste of talent.
Okay.
But a data orchestration layer solves that by continuously providing a stream of validated data. It's basically the digestive system that breaks down complex enterprise information into the exact nutrients the AI needs to absorb.
That's a great metaphor.
Thanks. It takes AI from an experimental sandbox project to an actual scalable enterprise capability.
And this naturally leads to the operational symptoms.
Mm.
For the decision makers listening, how do you diagnose if your organization, or maybe your client's organization, is suffering from the absence of this layer?
Right.
The sources provide a highly practical diagnostic framework, outlining 5 distinct warning signs.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Let's explore these by imagining a scenario.
Okay.
Say you are the CTO of a mid-sized enterprise, and the board decides to expand operations into Europe. You acquire a smaller company in France.
Sounds like a standard Tuesday.
Right. But almost immediately, you hit sign number 5. Adding a new geography or a new business entity breaks your downstream integrations.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time.
You try to plug the French company's CRM into your global systems, and suddenly the North American financial reporting dashboard goes completely dark because the data structures clashed.
And right there, you're experiencing the extreme fragility of point-to-point connections.
Yeah.
Then you encounter sign number 3. Each new compliance mandate triggers a massive new integration project.
Oh, this one hurts.
It does. Say the French government updates a tax reporting law. The CFO asks IT for a simple update to the reporting outputs.
Mental. Right.
Right. And IT responds that they need $1 million in 6 months to write new custom scripts because the regulatory logic is hard-coded deep inside multiple legacy systems.
And the friction between the CFO and the IT department just becomes toxic at that point.
Very toxic.
Which leads right to sign number 1. Your compliance team is manually transforming or validating data before submitting it to tax authorities.
Yep, the human integration layer.
Exactly. IT couldn't build the integration fast enough, so the accounting department resorts to downloading CSV files from the ERP, manually manipulating the columns in Excel, and uploading them to the government portal.
Right. Human beings are literally acting as the integration layer.
It's so inefficient. And this manual work cascades up into leadership. Which brings us to sign number 2. Your analytics reports produce conflicting numbers depending on which system they pull from, requiring manual reconciliation.
Oh, the classic board meeting disaster.
Right. You walk into a board meeting, and the head of sales reports $5 million in revenue based on the CRM dashboard, while the head of finance reports $4.8 million based on the ERP dashboard.
Because there is no canonical data model. The tools are just working from totally different interpretations of the underlying transactions.
It's the infamous whose dashboard is right meeting, a total drain on executive time.
Complete waste.
And finally, you look to the future and hit sign number 4. Your AI initiatives are stuck permanently in the data preparation phase. The board asks when the new AI supply chain forecasting tool will be ready, and the data science team has to admit they are still trying to clean up the inconsistent data generated by that French acquisition.
And if a business is experiencing 3 or more of those symptoms, the source argues definitively that the data orchestration layer is missing.
Wow.
The path to resolving this, though, relies on an underlying philosophy the authors call principles before products.
Meaning you can't just buy a shiny new software platform to magically fix the chaos.
Exactly. You must adopt the architectural discipline first.
Right.
You commit to configuration over customization, meaning you set rules in a central hub rather than writing custom code for every new tool.
Yeah.
You commit to transforming data at the boundary, literally as soon as it leaves the source.
Yeah.
And you rigorously validate data before you distribute it.
Okay.
Organizations that embrace these principles find that their systems absorb new requirements gracefully rather than fracturing under the weight of complexity.
It really is a complete paradigm shift. Implementing a data orchestration layer is ultimately the difference between an organization that manages spiraling complexity and an organization that manages absolute control.
Very true.
When you have this layer, every new analytics tool you want to try or every new AI agent you want to deploy becomes a low-cost configuration exercise. You just route a new spoke from the canonical hub.
Yep.
Without this layer, every single new tool is a high-risk, high-cost integration nightmare. We are essentially talking about eliminating integration debt.
And what's fascinating here is how this shifts the concept of business valuation and competitive advantage entirely.
How so?
Well, we have spent the last decade repeating the mantra that data is the new oil.
Right.
But if data orchestration dramatically reduces the cost and the risk of adding new AI capabilities or entering new global markets to near zero, is the ultimate competitive moat no longer the data you have, but the architecture that moves it?
Oh, wow.
Will integration debt become the primary reason legacy giants giants fall to newer, fully orchestrated competitors in the next decade?
That is a phenomenal thought. Because if your competitor can deploy an AI supply chain model in 3 weeks via simple configuration in their orchestration layer,
Right.
and it takes your IT department 18 months of custom coding to achieve the exact same result, you have lost the market before the race even started.
Exactly.
That is just a huge takeaway to end on. To everyone listening, I highly encourage you to look at your own company's tech stack tomorrow morning with this exact lens.
Absolutely.
Look for those 5 diagnostic signs. Hunt for the integration spaghetti. And when you're looking at that architectural diagram and things seem impossibly muddy, remember, the problem isn't the data, and it isn't the endpoints. You're just missing the layer that brings it all into focus.
The intelligence of movement.
Thanks for joining us in this deep dive. We will catch you next time.